You ever thought about buying a house but figure the process is just too complicated? I don't know where money goes, how much money I need, and it's just easier to rent. Well, in this video, we're going to cover exactly where your money goes, how you're going to be using it, and what fees might be associated with the process. While many people believe, and many agents will tell you too, that pre-approval is your first step. While that's somewhat true, it's not 100%. Really, you need to have some savings. It doesn't have to be $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, although that would help.
You won't pay $1,000. You won't pay $500, $300.
But having around $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 is really going to help you out in the long run, no matter what type of loan you get. While it's hard for some people to come up with even $1,000, having $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to go through the process is a much better investment than throwing away in a rental house that you're making payments on that you're never going to own. Step 2, while credit isn't a make or break for you getting a house, in the long run, it's going to be better off. Now, if you got a credit score below 520, 580 is most lenders, but the higher your credit score, the better off you're going to be in the long run, because generally, the higher the credit score, the better the interest rate, the lower your monthly payment, and over time, that can really add up. Don't go by these online credit checkers. They're not 100% accurate. They don't check all the things that a lender will check. They are a good guide. So if you're in the 400s, then chances are the lender's not going to be that far off. But if you're right on the verge, or you're right at that 580, you might stand a good chance of actually meeting the criteria to get a home loan. Some lenders go with the lowest credit score, some go with the average credit score. It just depends on which lender you end up going with for your mortgage. This is also why a lot of people just choose to have their credit checked at the time of getting their pre-approval through a lender, because the lender will run through, as we first talked about, how much money they got saved up and also their credit score, which are big determining factors for a mortgage. So now that we got your credit in check, we got a little bit of savings in the bank, what's next? Well, you want to wait about a month before you're really ready to purchase a house to go ahead and get your pre-approval. Why a month? Well, if you do it too soon, then pre-approvals only last for about 6 to 9 months, depending on who you go through. So let's say you don't find a house to that 8th month mark. By the time we get to closing, they may have to pull your credit again, and that's going to drop your score a little bit more. But you also want to make sure you get your pre-approval soon enough. You also want to make sure you get that pre-approval soon enough so that you know what you're qualified for. We don't want you out there looking at $250,000, $300,000 houses when you qualify for $200,000 or $150,000. It's not the fact that you're wasting your time or wasting our time. It's the fact that you're going to fall in love with a $300,000 house and not be able to afford it. So maybe you are, or maybe you aren't thinking about using a buyer's agent when you go to buy a house or sell a house, either one. How are agents actually paid? I just got a phone call the other day from somebody that had no clue of how we actually get paid and thought they had to pay us. Well, it's kind of true, kind of not. The way that works is a buyer's agent actually paid off the sales price of the house. It is already pre-negotiated with the seller through the listing agent of how much they're going to be paying the buyer's agent. But also, I've had buyers that come and think that they're going to get a deal because they're just going to go straight to the listing agent. That way, they don't have to pay a buyer's agent. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. That commission rate is still in the contract for the listing agent. So now, that listing agent is just getting both sides of the contract. You're still paying it. And now you don't have anybody that's just for you. So what are some of the costs that come up during the home buying process and where you're going to be using some of that savings? Some of those would be appraisals, inspections, surveys, any kind of specialty inspectors like a HVAC or electrical guy, roof guy, something like that. Also, when you're going to make the offer, you have to consider how much of due diligence and earnest money you're going to put down in the offer. This is separate from what the lender is considered the down payment. This is basically just to show how serious you are. And right now, people are very serious. And this also really hurts people that are first-time home buyers because they don't have the savings. They didn't just sell a house and have a big lump of money that they can use. or they didn't come from a state where they made a lot more money and have a big chunk to put down. Some people's putting 10, 20, I've even heard of $100,000 down in due diligence. The reason first-time home buyers don't want to put a big chunk down is because that due diligence is gone. As soon as the offer is accepted, it is sent straight to the seller. So they don't have it to risk if they were to find a problem down the road or it didn't appraise or whatever. They don't have it to lose. But the more savings you have, the bigger chunk of money you have, the more you can put into the offer to really bump up your seriousness of your offer to the sellers. Now, I won't go into too much more detail about the due diligence or earnest money. It really depends on how the market is at the time you're watching this video. Is it hot? Is it turned to buyer's market? Is it turned to seller's market? You need to consult a professional in the area wherever you're considering buying. If you're considering buying in North Carolina, I'd love to talk to you, or selling, either one. The other three that I mentioned, appraisals, inspections, and surveys. Appraisals are ranging, again, this could vary by the time you're watching this video, but right now they're about $500 to $600. Inspections are around that $500 or $600, and that varies depending on how much you want inspected. If you have a pool, if you just have a gigantic house. Surveys vary too, depending on how big the property is, and I really only recommend people get it if you plan to put up a fence or a wood line or something, or if you find a map that shows a property line going through the center of the house, you might want to get a survey just to double check. But keep in mind that those online maps you see and property boundaries are just for reference only and are not to be relied on as a survey. A lot of people think they want to skip the inspections too. Save $400, $500, $600 there. Well, that's true. You can have Uncle Joe that he used to be a contractor, he knows his stuff, come over, and I've had people do that before, and that's your choice. It's not required by the bank to get an inspection. That's totally up to you. It's just for your information. Now, you'll get about a 40, 50 page booklet of issues. 95 to 99% are minor. It's the big ticket items you really want to worry about, water or leaking or stuff that needs to be replaced. But a lot of people want to kind of skip this step, save a little bit of money. While it could save them a few $100s here, it could cost them thousands down the road for an issue they could have known about but didn't. And lastly, we're going to talk about closing costs. This is one of the biggest and most asked questions I get from people. And it's one that I can't answer 100% because it depends on the lender. Some lenders have fees or third-party fees. Lawyers have different fees. They're generally about the same by a few $100. I've seen $450 to $750 for lawyer deed preparation fees. Now, be careful because one thing people get really mixed up on is closing costs is not exactly the same as down payment. Yes, they all get lumped in the end as closing cost, but they're actually two different things. And I've had people that go through certain loans that are 0% down payment, but they forget they still have closing costs. For some reason, those pesky lawyers want to get paid. I don't know. Kind of a general rule of thumb we tell people for closing costs is around that 2 to 3% range. And that can be a broad range depending on how costly the house is, because it goes off purchase price. But that'll give you kind of a rough idea. I've seen some lower, I've seen some higher, depending on, again, the lender might have some fees that they kind of buried in there. Now, real quickly, I'm going to go over a couple little fees that are in closing costs. These vary depending on the lawyer, lender, things like that, but it'll give you kind of a real rough idea. If you want more detail, feel free to contact me anytime. I'll get you a little bit more better numbers, but you've got origination fees. These are through the lender. Don't ask me what origination fees are, where it originated, I don't know, but last one I did was about $400. You got title insurance. That last one I did was $125. Now, what is title insurance, you ask? Title insurance is there to protect you down the road. Should a long-lost relative come up that the lawyer wasn't able to find on the title search and say that he has a claim to your property, title insurance is there to protect you. It's a one-time fee that protects you for the life of the property. So if they come up and say, hey, that's mine, it's kind of a guarantee that either you get the house or you get the money. And that $125 or whatever it might be at that time could protect you for thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Recording fees, they're about $25, $50, depends on the county. And the county is the one that dictates this, so it's out of everyone's hands. Excise tax or tax stamps. Again, it's out of our hands. Can't really do anything about it. But it's a dollar for every $500. So on a $100,000 property, it's about $200. All right, property tax. Again, out of our hands. But they will be prorated, so if you close at the end of the year, you're only paying for the day of closing and to the end of the year. A few other fees that might vary are deed preparation fees by the lawyer. I think I gave you some numbers just then from what I've seen a range. You also have insurance escrow amounts. These are dictated by the mortgage and how much they want to kind of put back in your taxes and insurance if you're doing them that way for reserves. You've also got third-party fees that some lenders have. That's why I tell people to research the lender you have first, because they might have hidden fees that you don't know about till the day of closing. And a lot of the online, easy-to-do mortgage lenders have those. So FYI, watch out for that. So I hope this quick little video clears up some of the confusion of how much money I need and where the money goes and how it's being used. And I hope a couple of these videos here clear up some questions for you too. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.